With the meeting to order. I'll lead it tonight. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, welcome to the June 10th business meeting of the Board of Directors. This is our organizational meeting for the 24-25 school year. For those who have joined us online or in person, we will have public participation tonight. If you do want to speak, you will need to fill out a card over on the table over here. And if you're online and you want to speak, Assistant Superintendent Michelle Nee will walk you through the process. If you have a cell phone, I would ask that you would silence that now. And if we have anybody from the news media, we would appreciate if you'd like to introduce yourself and state the organization that you're with for our records. Okay. So the first order of business is to, we're going to elect a new board chair. And before we do that, I just wanted to personally thank the current board. And we have two members that, or one that's joining us, Andrew Shirtcliffe, and then Director Leone is out of the state. I wanted to thank each and every one of you, the directors and the administration, for a great 23-24 year. It made my job, it was a lot of fun. And I've said this before, on the 30 years that I've been on the board, it's probably the most enjoyable year that I've had. I do miss Reverend Howard Johnson very much, and but he will always be with us. And so thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
So at this time, I'm going to ask for nominations, and I'm going to open up nominations to elect a new chairperson for the 24-25 school year. So I will take motion for that.
Director Cotton, I would like to nominate Director Minor for that position.
Okay, we have a nomination for Director Andrea Minor for chair for the 24-25 school year. Do we have a second?
I'll go ahead and second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. In favor? Okay. So it is unanimous. So as the practice is, I'm going to sanitize this for you. And I'd like to congratulate you.
Thank you.
And it's been a long time. Well, it's been a few years since we've been able to say Madam Chairman.
Well, thank you.
So it's all yours.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I thank you, directors, for your vote of confidence, and I'm going to do my best to make you proud and serve our district as the best of my ability. But now we move on to our next agenda item. We need a new board vice chair for the 2024-25 school year. And I would entertain a nomination for that position.
Director Minor, I would like to nominate Chair or Director Cotton to serve as Vice Chair for the 24-25 school year.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I would move to second that.
Thank you. And do we have any discussion? Okay, and I call for the vote for Director Cotton to be Vice Chair of the 2024-25 school year. And all in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. The motion carries. Y'all have to be patient with me. I'm learning. And now at this time, we are going to have the review of the agenda with Superintendent Corden.
Thank you, Madam Chair Minor, and I'd like to just reiterate now Vice Chair Cotton's comments. really want to thank this board for a great year. I want to specifically thank Rod for your leadership and helping shepherd the work we've all been doing. The board collectively deserves a huge amount of praise for the support you provided our kids and our staff in this community. So thank you very much for a wonderful year. I'm optimistic we'll have a wonderful year this year. So thank you very much. Just a couple, Director Cotton mentioned that we have a couple of Director Leon's out. Thank you for Director Shortcliffe's with us here. And in terms of action items in the review of the agenda, we did add, since its last publication, item number 2, which is a recommendation for purchase of 600 Chromebooks. That came in after the initial publication. I'll tell you why that is real quick. Is we've been auditing our ESSER funds. And as you know, September 30th this year is the last date to spend money. We have been pretty efficient with some of the spending, and this purchase reflects the last bit of our ESSER funding, and then we'd like to make that purchase. That's why it was added late because as we looked at the audit, what was left there. And then in terms of the consent agenda, I also want to let the board know the April 10th board minutes were actually approved June 5th. So you won't see them reflected in this consent agenda. The June 5th minutes have been added to the consent agenda for your approval. We also have one resignation that was added this morning as well, and that is reflected in the consent agenda. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? And all in favor? Okay, motion carries. And we do not have any public participation, do we? Anybody online? Okay, great. Moving on to the 2024-2025 annual resolutions. Just wanted to remind you that these resolutions are part of our yearly board responsibility to carry on the daily business of the school district. And they're the same as last year. There haven't been any changes, and you've all received this and had a chance to review it. I just want to make sure that all directors are agreeable to acting on all resolution in one motion. Okay, great. I would entertain a motion to approve the 2024-25 annual resolutions as proposed.
And I will motion the mouthful. So this is a motion for resolution 24-2502, designation of custodian funds and use of face smile signature. Resolution 24-2503, designation of auditor. Resolution 24-2504, designation of depositories. Resolution 24-2505, designation of attorney. Resolution 24-2506, designation of election official. Resolution 24-2507, designation of budget officer and newspaper. And finally, resolution 24-2508, authorization to apply for grants.
Thank you, Director Hammerson. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion?
I just had one question. You did such a, I had one question. You did such a good job on the motion. Did you include the first one on the prior page?
My apologies. Original resolution is 24-2501, designation of clerk and deputy clerk.
Thank you.
Nice catch.
Does the second approve that?
Yes.
Good going. All in favor? Oh, discussion.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Cheryl's busy cleaning up Michelle's mess. So the question that I have, whoever wants to answer is, I'll kind of lump this together. When's the last time that we went out looking at, and I know it's limited, looked at and I'm not unhappy with the folks that I'm asking, but our attorney or the accounting people, auditors. So where are we at in the structure of, is it getting close to going back out to see what's out there, or am I making sense?
Yeah.
Jared can answer the one about our designated law firm. I can answer the one about our auditing firm. We did about 8 months ago, went out and informally asked if we did a request for proposals or a bid request, would we receive responses? And the answer was almost overwhelmingly no. Most audit firms aren't taking new audit clients, and there is a large, from the comments on the school business officials website group, many auditors did not get the audits done and to the state by the December 31 deadline, and state school funds have been withheld even into April and May. So I don't want to put us in that position. It would be great to maybe change auditors at this point, just for a different set of eyes looking at everything, but I don't know that we're going to receive many responses.
I did have,
No, go ahead.
well, it's on something else, so you
Okay,
touch it on.
yeah, let me touch on the designation of attorney. So we have, just so the board is aware, we really have 3 sets of attorneys that we have access to. This designation is for our outside counsel. But just so you're aware, we have attorneys that represent us through PACE, which is our liability folks, and we work with them occasionally. And so that is one group that we work with. And we also work with OSBA as well, and they have attorneys that help support certain things as well. And we work with Dole Colwell, which is really our outside counsel, but we have kind of a trifecta, depending on what the issue might be, we need counsel on. This designation, the 24-2505, is in reference to our relationship with Dole Colwell, who is a local attorney in town. We did see a change in the attorney that we used 2 years ago. We used to use Jason Montgomery. We're now with Cadence Whitley. We actually have it on the books to go out and take a look at attorneys as a kind of an annual process now in this year, coming up in the 25-26 year. So we'll be working through that process in the 25-26 year. Not because we're unhappy, but it's just a process we'll go out every couple of years. So we'll do that in the 25-26 year. Yes.
Director Hammerson.
I just wanted to address or maybe open up a little narrative on the 07, the newspaper portion of it. Can anybody speak to the parameters of that? How long we've been doing what we're doing now?
Since the news review is the newspaper with the greatest local circulation, I believe that, I mean, we've done that. All school districts have used the news review for as long as I've been in school business, and I won't tell you how long that is. So there has been some discussion again with our state business officials website online group about using alternative methods, like, just publishing it online and doing those things. I think those discussions are still fairly new. Keep my eye on that, and we'll see if we have a different avenue with which to publicize our budget.
I understand that we're in a particular species of situation, just being in the area that we're in and the resources that we have. But I mean, I've expressed concern in some meetings about their discretion in several issues. And that's going to be an ongoing concern for me, but I'm not speaking against it at this point in time. I'm just saying there's definitely heightened concern with me in that resolution.
Yeah, I would just follow up with that. I do wonder, and I'll continue to ask the question about this designation, which is required by statute. At what point there's a specific, if newspaper is the medium, because I think we're moving into a space in 2024 where there's lots of ways to get information. The statute set more around, not that it's archaic, but it's set more around the way that it used to be to get information. And so we'll continue to push about some flexibility. Is there other ways we need to put in, for example, this meeting tonight, budget hearings, all the public notices. And right now the statute calls for newspaper, when I think that could be broadened to other mechanisms that could be used. So.
Director Cubitt.
The superintendent made the comment that I was going to make, and that is that the statute requires a newspaper of general circulation, and we only have one. We don't have a choice on that. And that law is antiquated and it needs to be changed, but the legislature has to act to do that. And so we don't have control over the statutory requirement. And it is antiquated as it relates to simply a newspaper.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't trying to reference or infer that I'm, pushing for changes. I just have heightened concern with that particular situation.
Yeah, it is timely to do with communication being so many other courses to communicate with your community. It is time for the state to look at changes to that statute. And that could be something this board shared an interest with through OSBA and look to potentially dealing with legislation. That really doesn't have anything to do whether our newspaper is good or bad. It's just, is it over time to look at a different way to give that message? Well, may I touch upon one other? If we do go to outside counsel, one of the critical things is we need to be cautious and careful that we find a law firm that is knowledgeable in public education law, that is knowledgeable about the statutes and the labor issues, because our outside counsel is often a labor consultant to us, and it doesn't make a difference who and when. That is one of the criteria that we have to be careful of it, looking at if we do go to change our legal services.
Great. Great discussion. Are there any other comments? Great. We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor? Okay. Great. All opposed? Motion carries. Now we need a recommendation for the purchase of the 600 Chromebooks, and Assistant Superintendent Michelle Nee, would you speak to that, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we are requesting that you approve the purchase of 600 Chromebooks. These Chromebooks will be utilized to replace Chromebooks that are at end of life that can no longer be updated. Some broken Chromebooks that we have, as well as to have some additional ones on hand. Just as a reminder to the board, we are 1-to-1 in our district, so we do have every student in the district has the ability to have access to a computer, to a Chromebook. So we do have a large quantity of Chromebooks. So we are having to cycle through and replace as they reach end of life. This purchase would be paid for utilizing the ESSER funds, as Superintendent Gordon mentioned to you earlier.
Great. I would entertain a motion to approve the request for the 600 Chromebook bundles.
I move that we accept that recommendation for the 600 Chromebooks.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Great. All opposed? Okay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
We're now going to consider the adoption of a 2024-25 board superintendent and board operating agreement. This is an agreement between the superintendent and the board, which outlines collaborative governance, communication agreements, board expectations, and of the superintendent and the expectations of the superintendent of the board. This should be applauded, this agreement, and perhaps adopted by all boards in the state. This is not something they all do, but this district has been doing it for a number of years. And I will say it is very helpful, I think, for both the board and the superintendent. Once this is approved, then each member, all parties will be asked to sign the agreement. So that being said, would anyone I entertain a motion to approve the 2024-25 Board's Superintendent Operating Agreement as proposed.
I will motion to approve it.
Great. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Is there discussion? You need to,
I do, but I think you did.
Several of us may. I was just going to say that this is a very good tool. First time I've had an opportunity to review it, of course. To me, it's reflects great common sense, establishes respect between our elected officials and our chief executive officer, and also it appears to me to be very positive toward working coordination. And I'm impressed and support the motion.
Is this the first time we've done this in a public meeting? Shame on us. Should have been doing this all along. I just have a question. I know the red type is something new. It was added, was this added for the, is this different than last year? Does red mean? Or if it was in there last year, so, okay. Okay. Because I am colorblind, so I kind of saw something a little different. So I had to assume it was red. What I was gonna ask is, I didn't look at last year's is, you didn't have somebody asking you to do something that was illegal.
No, I mean, I think this reflects kind of like Madam Chair said, it reflects a commitment to partner in this important work. And that, we work really collaborative together, and this sets a standard of how we have high expectations of one another. I know that didn't happen, and
I just want to thank Madam Chair, because I knew that you were part of this, and Jared, and I missed that meeting when you asked to bring it forward. I thought that's a really good thing to do. So thank you.
do we have Chairman Crimmets?
Yeah, I
Director Crimmets.
didn't realize that this was not something that all districts have some kind of agreement like this. And so I was really glad to have this reinstated, on a yearly basis, because it's a reminder to us as board members what our job is and our relationship to you, and how to really work together better. And so I appreciate, this reminder, and am glad to be a part of agreeing to that.
Would also like to add that part of this is that we have regular check-ins with the superintendent, just to say, these are done in executive session. So where we get to say, how's it going? And so that is very, keeps that communication open and going well. It also helps with the yearly evaluations and such. There are never any surprises. So I think it's a good thing. That being said, I would entertain a motion to approve the 2024-2025 Board Superintendent Operating Agreement as proposed.
I would move to approve the board superintendent operating agreement.
Do I have a second?
And I would second that motion.
Great. Actually, I think we already did that, but now I realize we just did that. That's why you're giggling over there. Okay. So we had great discussion on that. All in favor? All opposed? Great, motion carries. We'd like to now have Jared, if he would speak about the OSBA charter renewal evaluation process.
yes, thank you very much. As the board knows, the 24-25 year represents the fifth year of our agreement with Phoenix Charter School. And as we kind of work through that process, as you likely know, the When a charter is in their last year, they are the ones that initiate a process if they're looking to renew. And that does start a time clock moving on some statutory requirements as it comes to if a charter is going to renew. OSBA provides a charter renewal evaluation process that is thorough. It takes a look at academic, financial, organizational outcomes, reviews the contract, and assures that we follow the statutes related to our agreement, including the evaluation process of the agreement. You have before you and here online the service that OSBA provides. Is my recommendation that you consider using the charter renewal evaluation services that OSBA provides as we move into this final year of the agreement with Phoenix Charter School.
I would entertain a motion to approve the OSBA services for upcoming charter school renewal process as outlined by the Oregon School Board Association. And as a reminder, this is with Phoenix Charter School.
I will motion to approve the OSBA charter renewal evaluation process.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Thank you. Discussion? Since there's no,
Mine's real quick. I think getting information from outside sources that have a different lens and they're unbiased is very important for us holistically, just to have a good feel on, maybe in this particular area, we're not understanding things correctly, or we see things a certain way. So I just wanted to say I see a lot of value in this, and yeah, that's it.
Observation is that looking at the outline that they provided and the example of how thorough it is, I think this is an objective third-party review, a comprehensive review, brings specific expertise on the requirements for this charter review. And I think it'll provide us a very, very good tool and lots of good information to help ensure that we continue our educational success in the district. I did have one question. Where is this in the budget?
It wasn't a budget item per se. We didn't have a charter renewal budget for this, but we do have discretionary budget for items like this. And we do have the funds to cover this. It's $7,550 plus travel. So it'll probably be about $9,500 all said and done. The process would be that their consultant, Krista Miles, would spend probably 2 or 3 days with us also. So visiting with our school district, visiting with Phoenix, gathering information on finances, academics, those things. She doesn't need to travel to do some of that, but they will come down and do interviews with our staff, for example, interviews with Phoenix staff, for example, to really get a sense of what's happening there and what's happened over the course of that contract. They'll dig into the contract components. There, as you know, our contract has specifics of things that we agreed upon, were those met. So it's probably in the neighborhood of probably about $9,500. We have, I'm not worried about the funds to pay for it. We have kind of some discretionary accounts for items like this that sit within the office of the superintendent to help support the board in this. And effectively, this would serve as a third-party independent review to help support, the board as this contract comes to the end of its current state.
Thank you.
Director Crimmets?
Yeah, as I was reviewing this information that we got on this process of considering using this service, I was really spurred to think about our strategic plan is for our kids to have a successful future. And the charter school is under our umbrella, and these are our kids. And so we take it very seriously that we do want them to succeed. And a good, strong educational foundation is a key for them unlocking their potential. And we think every kid has potential that can be unlocked. And so as for this district and for this board, I would like, to ensure that. And if this is a good way to make sure that we are best serving our kids and their education, which is going to give them a more successful future, we want to do that. So we just see this as maybe a part of that puzzle to make it more successful for these kids that currently are attending in this charter. And we want to support that as far as, building their potential educational success. Great.
Are there any more comments? Thank you.
I have one.
Yes.
That was great. Thank you very much. I agree.
Thank you for the wonderful comments. All in favor of the OSB to approve?
Excuse me,
Okay.
Madam Chair. Andrew's raising his hand here. Andrew?
Nope, I was just
Oh, you were
voting.
voting. I'm sorry. My apologies. Go ahead.
Okay. So all in favor of approving the OSBA services for upcoming charter school renewal process? Okay. It's unanimous. Thank you, Andrew. Motion carries. Now we're moving on to the superintendent's report.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a shortish report tonight. I'm going to tell some stories tonight, so it may not be totally short, but all good stories. I want to give you a quick update on where we're at with things happening in the district. I'm going to start with some construction. There's a lot going on construction-wise in the school district right now. If you haven't had a chance to get out and see some of the really great work, we should all be excited that we have a lot of improvements happening across our school district, from seismic work and beyond to vestibule building to new playgrounds going in and some tracks going in with some parent-funded accounts. And so those are happening. There's lots of things happening in the Hillcrest bathroom, the RHS storage area. The board's pretty aware of some of those. Most importantly, I want to tell you tonight, everything is on time and on budget. And boy, there's 4 words I love when it comes to capital improvement. Is it on time? Is it on budget? And we're sitting in a really great spot. I want to thank Cheryl specifically for kind of hustling a lot of these things, her and Tracy and the crew, making sure we're taking a look at our costs and also the quality of the work. But right now we are on schedule to make sure that all of our ESSER funding is spent by September 30th, 24, and it will all be spent. Your approval tonight on the Chromebooks, we had some efficiencies, so thank you for that. We have a little bit of built-in wiggle room around the way our contracts are written in terms of some contingencies, and we will be on time, on budget with these projects. They're not all moving at the same speed. We have a couple of vestibules that have been just a little bit dormant, but we're hustling on the larger projects that take a little more time so we can hit our September 30th time. But lots of great things happening. I appreciate it's been good to keep an eye on those, and that's exciting work happening across the district. Again, with grant funding that will expire. A lot is happening on buildings as well. I want to thank our staff who are just doing an incredible job with our kids. Several people here have been really directly involved. My cabinet team has been directly involved in supporting our students during the summer. And I just want to give you a couple of things. We're in full swing with a lot of our kids. We have summer learning happening with the SY, with our literacy. We have Winchester has her summer school. These have been great. It's been fun talking to staff, seeing kids. Our youngers, for example, working on, one of my daughters is helping with summer school as well. It's just fun. They're really loving coming to school. They're getting what A sounds like, the 3 sounds A makes, and it's been great. The kids are diving into reading and literacy. The staff's been just wonderful. I talked to one of the principals today who's supporting summer school, and he's like, wow, this is just an A team of people who are just committed. I'll give you a quick story. I was at a building this morning. There was this deep discussion this morning around, so sometimes you think about summer school like a camp. It's not like that. The teachers are leaning in saying, we need to make another group. I got kids who are on level and what can we do and push them forward. And so the staff's just diving in how to best support kids. It's been wonderful. They're doing great. Our library is open to students of all ages to do art projects on Wednesday this month. We are continuing at Lunchbox Express and feeding kids from 0 to 18 at our sites. And it's just, I love the fact that we are serving our community in every way we can. So it's been a great summer. People are like, how's summer? Do you have a vacation? We don't really take vacation around here because there's kids to serve, and that doesn't just happen during the school year. So huge shout out to the staff on that. I want to give you a quick update on where we're at with hiring. I want to thank Michelle, her department. She's done a great job as she's in this dual role again. Thank you, Michelle, for doing many things for us. But HR has been working hard. We're about 95% staffed with our classified positions right now. We still have about 20 positions to fill. And some of these positions have actually come because of some additional programs that we are opening to serve kids. But we have about 20 positions there. We have 386 positions and we have all but about 20 hired. We're working hard on that. The reason we see a little bit of a lull with our classified positions right now in our licensed positions is several of our principals are on 11-month contracts, all except for actually Dave Vickery here is with high school. Hi, Dave. Thanks for being here. And so there's going to be, we're doing some work, HR's working, but when people are back in August, there's some work happening to prep for people being there for that collaborative process. With our licensed positions, they're 98.5% full. We have 6 positions as of today that aren't full. And we're actively seeking the right candidates for that. We've hired over 40 talented people and welcomed them into our Roseburg team. And I just want to give a shout out to the board. I don't believe we will be here without the work of the board on our contract. One of the things that's setting us apart is that contract. The culture is also setting us apart. The supports are setting us apart. I've said this before. You have to have all 3. You have to have a strong culture that people want to be here. You have to have a strong contract as well, and you have to have strong support. So we're getting close. We want those, every single position is important and critical to serve kids, and we need them all filled with the right people, but we're on track when to give you an update with that. Not exactly full yet, but we're close. Every admin position's full and every confidential position's full. So we're 100% on those 2 and working toward making sure our classified and licensed positions can be full by the time we start or before we start. I want to tell a bit of a story here. This is a recap a little bit. For those of you who work closely with me, I like stories because I think stories are sticky. We can tell things associated with a story and we tend to remember that. Last year, at the start of the year, we do this every other year. We'll bring the whole staff together for an all staff meeting. We do this every other year. And last year, I just want to make sure everybody remembered this. For those of you who were here, Keith, if you weren't here for this one, there were 5 stories we told last year in the 23-24 year that became these kind of anchor spots for us to refer to. And I want to tell you kind of, we have some more stories for this year. There's 2 I want to talk about in a minute, but I just want to review this from last year. Rod actually told this first story about the impact of Dorothy Wilson that she had on Rod. And that was a real anchor story for us about the importance of a person who cares for you, a person who knows you. Teachers and our staff oftentimes save kids. And Rod actually told a really personal story about how this, I won't speak for you, Rod, but how Dorothy has played a really pivotal role in Rod's trajectory. Is a young juvenile to a young man into adulthood. And so that was a real anchor story. We talked about Dorothy Wilson several times, actually, not just at board meetings, but also at other meetings, in our LT meetings with our leaders and other meetings with staff. That was one last year. We also told a story about St. Paul Cathedral. In St. Paul Cathedral, the story here was about Sir Christopher Wren, and he was a famous English architect. And he was the architect of St. Paul Cathedral. And a story is told about, I'll make this quick, but Sir Christopher Wren, excuse me, who was walking through this cathedral. And he interacted with 3 different people, and he asked the first person, so what are you doing here? And they didn't know who he was. He was kind of undercover. And the first person said, I'm cutting stone. That's my job. He asked the second person said, I'm here and making, 5 shillings and 2 pence a day. And he asked the third person, what are you doing here? And that person said, I am building a beautiful cathedral with the help of Sir Christopher Wren. And we talked about the importance of understanding our purpose. What is our job? How are we interwoven and connected together? And this was kind of an anchor story for us as we decided to say, we've got to get on the same page, that we're all working together as a school district. And this was a story we told last year as well. The other story we told, there's 2 more. I'll make these quick. JFK, moonshot, the man on the moon. The story was really specifically about the custodian when JFK went to Cape Canaveral, and this is right in the middle of Sputnik in 63, and we needed to get a person on the moon, and he's walking around and taps a custodian who's working on sweeping the floors and said, sir, what's your job here? What are you doing? He turned around, the story goes to the president, and he said, Mr. President, we're putting a person on the moon. Love that story. Everybody was mission conscious. Everybody knew what their role was. And that's been an anchor for us this year, is we've redesigned certain positions. We looked at our own architecture. We made changes to our cabinet positions to make sure that everybody knows their role and the importance of their role. 2 more stories that we told last year. One was about the parable of the redwoods, I call it. And that's this. These trees should not exist on the West Coast. In fact, they're in the Northern California region, as we know, close to us, where it's windy, and the root system is super shallow in these trees, and they should not be able to exist here. The reason they do is because of that. Their roots form what some people say is the largest organism on Earth. They literally bind together and are tethered. They help one another. If there's a drought in one part of that massive ecosystem that's all connected, they literally can feed each other. They can support each other when the wind blows. And we talked about our organization having to have this design where it tethers together. Part of what I think this board superintendent operating agreement, the way we work together, it's not in silos. We have to work together as this kind of organization to really accelerate our work around academics for kids. The last story was about this, Pete Carroll. And this was a story about when Pete was asked, going from USC Trojans, hard for me to say that right now, but to the Seahawks, when he was asked about, hey, how are we going to do? And it's the one reporter who said, Pete, did you rent or did you buy? And that's been really, we saw this a lot with our conversations around contracts, negotiations. It's about being here and seeing your future here. So those were the stories from last year. And we used those quite a bit last year. I think we can continue to use those. But what I want to just talk briefly about tonight is we had a leadership team meeting with our leaders last month. And I want you to, if you would consider adopting these 2 stories as a board. I think it's important. It has a lot of relevance for how we do our work together, how the board works with each other, how we work with our staff. And here's the 2 stories and themes we presented to our staff this year. And they're kind of bookended. The first one, Boys in the Boat. It's not meant to be gender biased, but if you haven't read the book, it's fantastic. The George Clooney film's also not bad either. But if you're not familiar with this story, it's actually a really, really fantastic story. It's a true story based on the Washington team from the Olympics in 1936. Fascinating time in world history. It's in Berlin. It's the rumblings of the beginning of World War II. It's a huge moment for the Germans and Hitler and all of the things. And here comes this JV squad, by the way, from University of Washington. And the story is really about alignment and teamwork. It's about grit and coordination, leadership, sacrifice, and maybe most importantly this, that a well-synchronized team can always outpace great individual effort. We talked about with our team, the importance of being coordinated, rowing together, gaining speed, and how important it is in our organization as we're focused, as Ann talked about tonight. We need these outcomes for kids to be dialed in. They have to be accelerated. We can't wait. You get 1 3rd grade year. That's it. We have to deliver on that. And so we talked about with our team, with our leadership team, we need to be like this group that worked together to be in coordination. if somebody's rowing a little bit faster or not as fast, the boat doesn't go straight. It actually kind of goes in a circle a little bit. And these were this 8-man crew. So that was one of the themes for the year, and I'd love the board to consider that. What does that mean in terms of how we work together, how we support our staff, how we can be aligned? And that's been a theme for our cabinet group and our leadership team group, and will be kind of throughout the organization this year. And there's a quote that was this was said by actually the coach of the Washington team, that no single action by any one is out of sync with those of all the others, right? So you have to be working together. The other story that that's been on my mind in terms of this year that I just want to talk for just a few minutes about is about a person by the name of Sir David Brailsford. And I'm going to talk a little bit about cycling. It's interesting. So I'll give you a little history about British cycling. British cycling had been around for about 100 years before the British hired David Brailsford. So they had never won a Tour de France in 100 years, British cycling. They had one gold medal, it was in 1908. And they had really been kind of the model of mediocrity in British cycling across the world. And they hired Sir David Brailsford for 2000, end of 2003 and 2004. And he had a theory. He called it aggregation of marginal returns. And the idea he brought was this. He talked about the power of marginal gains. But if we could get 1% better, just 1%, every day in something, he said, to the astonishment of the people hiring, he said, we can win a Tour de France in 5 years. So what he set out to do is he set out to get 1% better. And he kind of looked at a lot of things that a lot of teams look at. How do we get a better tire? How can we make sure that, we can make sure our gear is right? But then he started to look at some things that were interesting. He looked at, biofeedback sensors. He looked at testing different massage gels. He split tested a couple of those. And then he started to look at other things. They hired a doctor to show people how to wash their hands to reduce infection. They tested pillows that people slept on best and mattresses. So when they went on the road, they'd have the right amount of sleep. He looked at kind of the things you'd think about and also things you wouldn't. What happened was they didn't win a Tour de France in 5 years. They actually won the Tour de France in 2 years, actually. They went on to win 5 of the next 6 Tour de France's. They had their an incredible Olympics in 2008, and their kind of really statement was the London Olympics in 2012, where they won 70% of the medals in the Olympics. This was men's and women's. And we talked about this a little bit. If you take a look at this graph, if we were to get better, and you do the math on 1% on 365 days, exponentially, you're about 38x, 38 times better by the end of the year. Now, if you take that the other way around and say you get 1% worse, you're almost to zero at the end of the year. You're almost to zero. And we talked about the importance of getting better every single day and what that looks like. There are 2 quotes we share with people, which I love. And some of these kind of come, there's a book called Atomic Habits that kind of talks about the same thing. But small daily improvements over time lead to stunning results. Now, we've seen some results, which are really important. We have every single school that, in our 12 schools, every single school has seen upward momentum. And that's great. And the results aren't stunning in most places. They're just trending in the right direction. I believe strongly that if we can literally get 1% better in a variety of things, how we coach, how we support, thinking about our curriculum, thinking about how we hire people, thinking about how we support people, not just about the academic components, we can see stunning results in the organization. And that's kind of another bookend. The last one, which I love, is this: become addicted to constant and never-ending self-improvement. I want our organization to have this be an addiction, that getting better is like something we thrive on. I kind of want you to know what we're working on leaders on, and would just ask for your consideration about 2 of these bookend marks. I really think that our this board is actually a board that I think is becoming addicted to constant improvement. I appreciate the push for me to get better, the push for our buildings to get better, to not be patient, to not be too patient about how better, how we can focus on improvement. But I just want to share that with the board too, what our focus with our leaders have been. And we're going to work on this in our organization, and we just hope that as a board, we can continue to talk about how we make these slight gains. I'll just mention one other quick thing. When you see dramatic improvement, let's pick on schools, it could be anything. When you see dramatic improvement in 1 year, you question whether that can happen. You're like, is that, it's kind of like a hedge fund owner, right? Like, what's really, is that a Ponzi scheme? What's kind of going on, right? We've seen some big improvement in our organization, but what is interesting about this is the aggregate of small gains. Small gains feel optimistic to me. Like, I can get a little better. I can do 1%. I think as our organization embraces this concept of a little better every day, and then taking a look over time, what that leads to, I'm confident we can see the improvement I expect and the board expects and all of us hope for with our students. So I'll just end with that for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your report. That was awesome and very encouraging. Now we have individual reports by directors, and I don't know if Director Shirtcliffe is up to saying anything, or if he wanted to. I wanted to give him that opportunity. If you want to pass, that's okay.
Good, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, great. Get better quickly. Director Hammerson?
Yeah. If I had a nickel for every time I heard Superintendent Corden say, are we getting people to rent or own? I'd probably have $1.35 at this point. I've only been here a year, but yeah, I mean, everything you said was awesome. Stories stick to me, so I like stories. But in this slideshow, if we have a Seattle Seahawks thing in there again, I think I might have to take an extra clause in the superintendent operating agreement. That's my only negative feedback, but fantastic. Thank you for wrapping it up. It's been a great school year, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Director Krimitz?
I was just listening to you. I think your calling is as a motivational speaker. I appreciate your always positivity in forward momentum. And I think the minute you just kind of ease back, you will slip back. And so I really appreciate your constantly pushing forward. I really like that power of tiny gains. I was thinking, if I were a teacher, how could I incorporate that? What could I do that would be 1% better today? What one area, one thing, that I could do. And so I think that's a story that for me could sell, I could see myself selling that to our, all of our staff members, because small things can make a big difference in that positive direction, and just finding that. So I appreciate and I think I want to go see the schools and see the improvements, because that's always encouraging. And, I'd encourage the, community, stop by one of the schools and see some of the things that have been done. And I think that's always a positive thing that we can encourage in our community.
Thank you, Director Krimitz. Director Cotton, do you have anything to add?
I want to apologize to you when I went, no. So I could have done a better job so I want to just let you know how the public participation works. So when we do have public participation at a certain time of the meeting. And that's why we have you fill out the card so we can call. But And then that's generally it, but we have email addresses on our, if you want to communicate with the board members, we have email addresses, or if you want to ask afterwards, we're more than happy to talk to you. Yeah.
And I didn't expect to have it, so I didn't.
Yeah, but I'd like to hear it after. So I wanted to apologize. I didn't mean to, because we value your input. So anyway, thank you. Of course, I love stories. You know that, especially stories that are true. I mean, there are so much crap out there right now. It's just not true, but I know when you say something, it's true, and that means a lot. So when you're talking that, I was looking at our posters. And I know where it's all 23, 24, that's all has to be cleaned up, but some of those sayings that, especially the last one, maybe you can incorporate that somewhere on that board somewhere. I don't know. I mean, it went on a clutter, but I think it's really, really important. Roseburg High School. I love driving down the freeway, because I said, and it's so nice, because when we passed the last bond, we told our taxpayers we were going to keep our buildings looking sharp. And, for a couple of years, I thought, oh my God, but they look so nice. Thank you for everybody that's been involved in that. I just really smile when I go by that. I think that's cool. And then I think I could have talked to you off the record, but just as a board member, I would like for this next school year that we spend a little bit more time looking at our enrollment throughout the year. Because I'm looking at this, I looked at it every time it's there, and I'm concerned what we ended with what we projected with. And I think especially the newer board members, they're not new, but the newer, I think that's kind of important to understand. And that's kind of our funding. I mean, it is our funding. And so if it's, and it'll be up to superintendent and the Madam Chair, but I think it would be wise to have a little bit more discussions throughout the year on enrollment. Anyway, I'm looking forward to our new Madam Chair. It's going to be a great year. Thank you.
You, Director Kubik.
Thank you, but I don't have any reports this evening. It's been a busy past month.
I would like to have a little bit of a report. I just want to say my first experience at Roseburg High School graduation was so wonderful. Thank you, Principal Vickery. I was impressed with many things, especially even the efficiency of it. When I was told, oh, it's a little over an hour, and I was like, no, I don't think so. But it was an hour and 15 minutes, and it was really, but just the whole thing was very meaningful. I look forward to next year and graduating even more students, because we're on an we're going up a little bit every day. So that's going to increase as well. So I do want to say that the next meeting is August 14th, and it will be here in this room. All the board regular business has been concluded with no objection. I will entertain a motion to adjourn this regular board meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor? Great, it's unanimous, and Andrew's really happy.
No.
All opposed? Okay, well, sorry, motion carries. This meeting is officially over.